Imagine you are sitting in dead-stop traffic on like a random Tuesday morning. The rain is just drumming heavily on your windshield, the wipers are squeaking, and you are already 10 minutes late for a crucial meeting.
Oh, and your phone is just buzzing relentlessly in the cup holder with urgent emails.
Exactly. You don't even have to look at it to know it's bad news. Your jaw is clenched so tight, it literally aches. Your shoulders are practically touching your earlobes, and your heart is just hammering against your ribs like it wants to escape.
I mean, that specific scenario is basically the absolute definition of modern urban misery.
Totally.
You are trapped in this completely enclosed metal ecosystem of stress. Your nervous system is flooded with cortisol, and there is literally nowhere to run.
And in that exact miserable moment, if someone were to lean into your car window and cheerfully tell you to, practice mindfulness, you would probably want to roll the window up on their fingers.
Oh, 100%.
Because when we hear words like mindfulness or Dhamma, we have this incredibly specific, almost cinematic image in our heads. We picture older folks wearing pristine all-white clothing, walking in very slow, deliberate circles at a serene temple high up in the mountains, completely detached from the real world.
Right. We view it as a luxury item, basically. The cultural assumption is that finding inner peace requires cashing in 3 to 7 days of precious vacation time, paying for an expensive rural retreat, and sitting in total silence.
Just completely cut off from Wi-Fi, difficult coworkers, family obligations, all of it.
Yeah, it feels completely inaccessible to a normal person with a mortgage and a data plan.
Okay, let's unpack this, because our sources for this deep dive are entirely dismantling that picture. We are looking at this fascinating framework for bringing ancient Buddhist practices of mindfulness and wisdom directly into that Tuesday morning traffic jam.
Which is exactly where it belongs.
Right? So the mission of our deep dive today is to explore how this system of daily, mind management is actually designed to be used right in the middle of your daily chaotic grind. No white robes, no mountain retreats, just a few minutes a day, applied when you actually need it most.
And that's incredibly validating for anyone who has ever felt like they just don't have the time or the patience or the lifestyle to be a quote-unquote mindful person.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that way.
Most people do. But the heart of these teachings was never actually designed to be confined strictly within temple walls or reserved exclusively for monks. That extreme isolation is just a training ground.
Like a controlled environment to learn the basic mechanics.
Exactly. But the tools themselves, they are built for the messy, loud, complicated reality of everyday human existence.
So, to apply mindfulness to our incredibly busy lives, our sources suggest we first need to strip away all the mystical incense-burning baggage and define what it actually means in a mechanical, everyday sense.
Right.
Like, what is sati, or mindfulness, when you are staring at a broken spreadsheet at 4 p.m. on a Friday?
To understand the mechanics of sati, we really need to imagine that your mind is a smartphone screen.
Okay.
All day long, emotions like anger, stress, jealousy, anxiety, they are acting as push notifications constantly popping up on that screen. Your brain is just generating these alerts to get your attention.
Oh, I know that feeling intimately. It's just a constant barrage. Like, hey, remember that embarrassing thing you said 5 years ago? Ping. Hey, your boss sounded a little passive-aggressive in that last message. Ping.
Yes, and the default human reaction without any mindfulness practice is highly predictable. A notification pops up, say a surge of frustration about that email from your boss, and we click it instantly.
We tap the banner.
Right. We tap the banner, the emotional app opens, and we get completely sucked into the interface. We are suddenly drowning in that frustration, rereading the email 5 times, drafting furious replies in our head, analyzing every word, and, effectively ruining the next 3 hours of our day. We become trapped inside the app.
Wait, so the goal isn't to achieve zero inbox for our brain and turn off all the alerts?
Not at all.
Because, honestly, when I think of enlightenment, I imagine a brain that just never receives a stress notification ever again. I want to go into the settings and toggle anxiety to the off position.
I mean, that is the most common and, frankly, the most frustrating misconception about this entire philosophy.
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is that mindfulness sati is not the act of disabling notifications.
It's not.
No, it does not stop the anger, the grief, or the anxiety from popping up on the screen. The biological hardware of your brain is still going to produce those feelings. Sati is simply the awareness of the screen itself.
So it's just looking at the notification banner without tapping it, like acknowledging that the phone buzzed, reading the alert, but leaving the app closed.
Exactly. You see the notification clearly, like Anger is requesting your attention, but you make a conscious choice not to engage. You create a vital microscopic distance between you and the emotion. Sati is just that raw awareness in the present moment.
Just watching it happen.
Yeah, you are watching the machinery of your mind operate without getting caught in the gears.
You know, that makes me think of another analogy in the source material that really clicked for me, which explains what this actually feels like.
Yeah.
It's the difference between being a player on the field versus being a spectator up in the stands.
That's a great one.
Yeah, because when you are the player, you are sweating, you are highly reactive, your heart is pounding, and every single pass and tackle feels like life or death. You are down in the mud of the emotion, basically getting tackled by your own anxiety.
Right.
But mindfulness shifts you up into the bleachers.
And the game doesn't stop just because you move to the bleachers. The anger is still happening down on the field. The frustrating email still exists. But your relationship to the event has fundamentally transformed.
You're just watching it.
Right. You are eating a hot dog, observing the chaos from a safe altitude rather than getting bruised by it.
Okay, so the theory makes sense. Stay in the bleachers, don't tap the notification. But let's get into the actual toolkit the sources provide. If I'm sitting in that traffic jam, practically vibrating with stress, how do I actually stop myself from jumping onto the field? Because, theory is easy when you're sitting in a comfortable chair listening to a deep dive.
Yeah, this is where we have to move from abstract philosophy to the first practical, immediate application. When the mind is spinning out of control and generating 100 notifications a minute, you have to anchor it.
Okay, anchored out.
You have to tether it to something solid. And the texts tell us to do that by anchoring the mind to physical sensations. We call this the body anchor.
But why the physical body? Like, why not just try to visualize a peaceful beach or try to think happier, more positive thoughts?
Because you cannot outthink a spiraling mind using more thoughts. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline.
Oh, that makes sense.
The nature of the mind is that it functions as a time machine. When you are stressed, your mind is rarely in the present. It is traveling backwards to ruminate on past regrets, or it is traveling forwards to catastrophize about future anxieties.
Right, just living in a timeline that isn't actually happening.
Exactly. But your physical body is exclusively bound to the present moment. Your body cannot time travel. It only exists right here, right now.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the body only exists in the current millisecond, tuning your focus into it forces the time-traveling mind to snap back to the present reality.
Yes.
You're literally forcing the brain to process raw sensory data instead of imaginary scenarios.
And the source text gives some incredibly grounded examples of how to deploy this in a normal day. Let's go back to that red light in the rain. You are late. The impulse is to instantly grab your phone, frantically scroll, or, compose an excuse in your head.
Yep, my go-to move.
But instead, you deploy the body anchor. You take 3 deep breaths. But you don't just breathe. You bring all of your cognitive attention to the physical feeling of your hands gripping the leather of the steering wheel. Or you focus on the exact sensation of your lower back pressing firmly against the car seat.
Or another example from the text that I loved, walking to the restroom at the office. Usually that's just a transition period where we pull out our phones or we are agonizing over what to say in the next meeting.
Right, wasting that time.
But the source suggests spending just those 10 seconds focusing solely on the sensation of your feet gently hitting the floor. Heel toe. Just feeling the weight transfer.
I mean, it sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But mechanically, you are starving the mind of the fuel it needs to keep spinning. By forcing your brain to process the pressure on the soles of your feet, you are denying it the processing power to worry about the 2 p.m. meeting. You are forcing it into the physical reality of the current second.
It acts as a literal pause button for the nervous system. It makes me want to ask you, the listener, directly, how many 10-second windows do we waste every single day by reflexively reaching for digital distractions? Or getting lost in imaginary mental arguments with our boss, instead of just letting our brains rest?
We waste dozens of them.
Right. If we just use the walk to the coffee machine as a mental pause button, the compound effect on our baseline stress levels would be massive. You'd be draining the pressure valve constantly throughout the day.
It would fundamentally change the architecture of your day. You would arrive at 5:00 p.m. with significantly more energy. But we also have to acknowledge the limitations here. The body anchor is highly effective for general overwhelm, baseline distraction, or low-level anxiety.
Yeah. I have to be honest, I tried the footstep thing when I was absolutely furious at a vendor last week who messed up a huge order. And my brain just yelled, "Who cares about your feet? We are mad."
Yeah. That's completely fair.
It felt like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Focusing on my heels hitting the carpet did absolutely nothing to stop the rage.
That is a very normal experience. When a massive, fiery notification pops up, the body anchor usually isn't strong enough. That level of emotional intensity requires a slightly different, more targeted tool to dismantle.
Okay, what is it?
That tool is called affect labeling. When an intense emotion hits, instead of shouting back in your head or drafting a resignation letter in your mind, you gently and objectively label the emotion internally.
Label it.
Yeah. You simply say to yourself, frustration is happening right now, or anger is present.
So what does this all mean? Can simply saying a few monotone words in my head genuinely diffuse a massive, blood-boiling argument? Because again, when I'm furious, labeling it feels a bit, silly.
It feels like a placebo until you understand the neuroscience behind it, which is fascinating. When you experience intense anger, a primitive almond-shaped part of your brain called the amygdala essentially hijacks your entire nervous system.
Oh, the amygdala hijack.
Right. It perceives a threat, floods your body with adrenaline and cortisol, and prepares you to fight or flee.
So your body has literally shifted resources away from logic and into pure survival mode. You're biologically compromised.
Completely compromised. But functional MRI scans show that mentally assigning a specific word to an emotion, that deliberate act of affect labeling, actively disrupts the amygdala's hijack.
Wait, really? Just by naming it?
Yes, because language processing requires glucose, oxygen, and electrical activity in the prefrontal cortex, which is the rational, logical part of your brain right behind your forehead.
Oh, wow.
By forcing your brain to search for a word to describe the feeling, you are literally siphoning blood flow and energy away from the fear center and up into the logic center. You are starving the fire of oxygen.
That is incredible. So you are literally rebooting the computer by forcing it to run a heavier program. You're making the brain do a task that the amygdala isn't capable of performing, forcing the rational brain to come back online.
Exactly. And there is a crucial linguistic trick happening in the way the sources tell us to label it. By identifying the emotion objectively as anger is happening, rather than saying, I am angry, you sever your identity from the emotion.
Okay, let's explain that like I'm 5, because severing your identity sounds a bit abstract. What does it actually feel like to mistake an emotion for who you are?
Think about a time you've been incredibly frustrated. If you say to yourself, I am an angry person, or I am furious, you are wearing that emotion like a skin suit.
A skin suit.
Yeah, you believe in that moment that anger is your core personality trait. It colors every memory, every interaction. You think the whole world is hostile because you are hostile. You have completely merged with the feeling.
But saying anger is happening right now treats it entirely differently. It treats it like the weather.
Yes, the weather.
It's like walking outside and saying rain is falling. I am not the rain. I am not made of water. I am just a person currently standing in a storm, getting wet. The storm will pass, and I will still be here.
That is a perfect way to internalize it. You reestablish that spectator distance. You are back in the bleachers looking at the weather on the field. But this raises an essential question about the long-term impact of all this.
Right.
So if you keep doing this, if you keep labeling the anger, feeling your footsteps, and watching the storms pass without tapping the notification, what happens to your brain long term? Does your baseline view of reality start to shift?
Right. What is the end game here?
Yeah.
We are moving from the foundational, everyday tools of mindfulness sati to the ultimate prize discussed in the sources.
Yes.
Wisdom, or in the Buddhist tradition, panya.
And we should clarify immediately because the text makes a big point of this. Wisdom in this context does not mean getting an A grade in school, reading a lot of books, or becoming some philosopher who quotes poetry on a mountain.
Definitely not.
Panya simply means seeing the mechanics of reality exactly as they are. Because when you see how the machine actually works, it naturally prevents you from suffering over things you cannot control. The text outlines that consistent mindfulness eventually reveals 3 core, undeniable insights about reality.
So let's weave through those, because they build on each other beautifully. The first insight is impermanence, or anicca. The realization that absolutely nothing stays the same.
And this one is biologically profound. Think about that raging anger toward your vendor that you thought would ruin your entire week.
Oh, I was sure it would.
Well, neurological studies perfectly aligned with this ancient wisdom show that the chemical lifespan of an emotion, the time it takes for those stress hormones to flush into your bloodstream and then naturally dissipate, is remarkably short. An emotion physically only peaks and lasts for about 90 seconds to 3 minutes before it naturally begins to fade.
Wait, a maximum of 3 minutes?
Yes,
But I have genuinely been mad at people for days. I mean, I have carried grudges for years.
we all have. But the initial biological chemical flush of the emotion is incredibly brief. If you stay mad for 3 days, it's not because the original chemical wave lasted that long. It's because you are constantly re-clicking the notification.
Oh, wow.
You are retelling yourself the story of what the vendor did over and over, which triggers a fresh hit of anger chemicals every single time. You are manufacturing new anger. But the emotion itself, if left alone, is impermanent. It rises and falls like a single wave on the ocean. If you don't feed it a story, it dies out.
Realizing that the wave will crash on its own leads perfectly into the second insight, non-self or anatta. This is the realization that we do not have 100% control over our own minds. We are not the dictator of our thoughts.
Which, if we are honest, is utterly terrifying at first.
It really is.
The human ego desperately wants to believe it is the pilot flying the plane. Realizing you aren't in control of the thoughts popping into your head feels like losing your grip on reality.
It does. But it eventually becomes the most liberating thing in the world. Because frustrating, embarrassing, or anxious thoughts just pop into our heads completely uninvited. I didn't sit down at a restaurant, look at a menu of thoughts, and say to the waiter, yes, I'll take a large side of agonizing over something awkward I said at a party in 2014, and maybe a dessert of worrying about my mortality.
Right. Nobody orders that.
It just arrived at the table. I didn't order it.
Exactly why it is so liberating. You didn't order the thought. And if you didn't order it, it isn't essentially you. You are not the author of every random firing of synapses in your brain.
That's a huge relief.
Which means you don't have to carry the burden of it, you don't have to feel guilty about having an ugly thought, and you certainly don't have to let it dictate your behavior for the day. It is just random weather passing through the sky.
And when you truly grasp that thoughts are impermanent waves and that you didn't even order them in the first place, that brings us to the third and final insight: letting go.
This is where we have to look at the mechanics of clinging. Why does the brain usually want to hold on to anger or anxiety so tightly? It holds on because of evolutionary friction. The brain thinks anger is a shield.
The shield.
Yeah. It thinks anxiety is a radar system protecting you from future threats. It clings to these emotions because it believes they are necessary for survival.
But once you achieve panya, once you clearly see impermanence and non-self, you realize the shield is useless.
Precisely. You realize the threat, the chemical wave, has already peaked and passed. Biologically, the brain gets the signal that it no longer needs to protect itself from a ghost, so the friction stops.
It just lets go.
The mind doesn't have to be forced to let go. It automatically drops the shield because it sees there is no battle. It lets go of its tight, anxious grip on the situation because there is nothing solid left to hold on to.
It's like realizing you've been standing knee-deep in a fast-moving river your entire life. For years, you've been frantically trying to catch every single piece of debris floating by, every twig of anxiety, every leaf of anger, every piece of trash from a past regret.
That sounds exhausting.
It is utterly exhausting. But mindfulness, and ultimately wisdom, is the sudden, profound realization that you can't stop the water from flowing. The river will always bring debris, but you absolutely don't have to try and catch it. You can just stand there, feel the cool water rush past your legs, and simply watch the leaves float away out of sight.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is exactly why the Buddha did not teach people that they had to abandon their families, their jobs, and their daily lives to find peace.
Right, it wasn't about running away.
He wasn't teaching escapism. He taught a highly practical, mechanical method to live right inside this chaotic, demanding, unpredictable world with a mind that remains free. You can stand in the rushing river of modern city life with the urgent emails, the brutal traffic, the difficult coworkers, and still remain entirely untouched by the debris.
It's not a religion you have to convert to. It's just a completely different operating system for your nervous system. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to challenge you, the listener, to try just one micro-practice today.
Just one.
You don't need to buy a white robe. You don't need to book a flight to a mountain. Just take 3 minutes. Eat a meal for just 3 minutes without looking at a screen, without listening to a podcast, just tasting the food. Or on your very next walk to get coffee, just feel the exact sensation of your heel and toe hitting the ground. Peace isn't waiting for you on some expensive retreat next year. It is literally waiting to be found right here in the present moment on a Tuesday.
And as you go into the rest of your day, I want to leave you with a lingering question to chew on, building on what we've unpacked about the biology of our emotions.
Let's hear it.
If the physical biological peak of an angry or stressful emotion truly only lasts for 90 seconds to 3 minutes on its own, and every single feeling beyond that time frame is just your brain constantly hitting refresh on the notification, how much of your daily, exhausting, overwhelming stress is entirely self-generated?
Wow.
And what would your week look like if the next time that painful notification popped up, you didn't click it and you just allowed that 3-minute timer to run out?
Imagine sitting in that rainy traffic jam, hands resting on the wheel, heart rate completely steady, just watching the timer tick down while everyone else is losing their minds. That isn't just relaxation. That's a superpower. Until next time, keep diving deep.